Hey, how's it going? I'm Bill.
I'm Jesse.
And we are No Matter Where Van. And today we're going to give you a step-by-step instructional video on how to install a Webasto heater.
Yep.
Yeah.
We installed this heater just about 8 months ago and we could not be happier. It has worked perfectly. We started off with a Mr. Buddy heater, and while that was great, it just didn't suit our needs. So we saved a bunch of money and we purchased a Webasto heater. It is a bit pricey, but totally worth it. It comes from a reputable company and we couldn't be happier.
Yeah, it's totally worth it. So what I'm going to do too is I'm going to set you up with a link in the description below. It's going to give you a list of all the tools and all the parts that you're going to need to install it yourself too.
Yeah, so we hope you enjoy this video.
Yeah, happy install, happy Webasto. So last night, we got a little present. It was a nice little delivery, and it is a box of love from Webasto. Ooh, this is so cool. So, I have to admit, I've already looked in the box, kind of fished through it a little bit, but I want to take you through it and show you what this whole kit comes with. I didn't look through everything, so we're going to be discovering some things together. But, so this is the Webasto Airtop 2000 STC. We have a little fuel line. This is the fuel tank insert. This is your exhaust tubing. This is the intake tubing. We have the heater vent and the attachment to the hose. This is the heater tubing. This is, the intake grate. Wiring harness, the floor mounts. We have a gasket that goes underneath the Webasto. Wire ties. Always use wire ties, no matter what you're doing. Or zip ties, whatever you want to call it. Your preference. We have your intake filter. That's cool. Clamps for the hoses. I don't know what that is. Well, I guess we'll find that out together, kids. This is our heat controller right here. The Webasto digital heat controller. Oh, this thing is so pimp. Oh, lots of goodies in here. What is this? Some more wires. Perfect. Can always use wires, right? So here's the fuel. Oh, that's what that is. That's for the fuel pump, that little electrical connector. All right, cool, man. So those electrical connectors are for this end of the fuel pump. Here's all your some of the rubber fuel tubings and clamps and bolts. Oh, I love it. This thing comes with everything. It's awesome. Everything except instructions, which is my kind of a project. All right, let's see. Yep, no instructions. I love it. This is gonna be so much fun. All right, so we're ready to rock and roll. All right, so let's check out the seat real quick. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go underneath the passenger seat. We'll take out the door. We'll just rip that thing right off. And we'll take out the jack and we'll see if we have enough room to run a drill. Find a new home for this thing somewhere and then take a quick look. Looks promising.
Alrighty guys, so the next step in attempting to install our Webasto heater is we're going to remove this plastic cover off, and we're using a T20 Torx driver. Looks like this little star shaped thing. And we're going to just get right in there and start removing these screws. I believe there's only 3. Here we go. Look at that. And my missing flip-flop. Look at that.
take this little bracket off that was holding the jack container in place. So you just take a 10mm wrench. There are 10mm bolts right under here. There's 2 of them. Just pop those things out because we're not going to need them anymore. And there we go. That's out. I'm not entirely sure where to go from here, but my idea is to drill a pilot hole right through the floor and see where it goes out underneath. Hopefully we don't hit anything vital, but I think we'll be all right. I think the best approach now is to take the Webasto heater and put it into position, and I want to keep it as tight to this little bar right here as possible. I'm just going to draw a little mark around it, and I can find a nice place to put a pilot hole in and then go underneath the van and see where it comes out at the bottom. All right, so to get a more accurate read on your measurement, I'm just going to draw a straight line from corner to corner because that seems to be the most accurate thing, and we got a reference point on the floor to where that's going to be. So just draw a line there. And now you got a solid thing to measure from front to back. So this is our rubber gasket. We'll use this as the template. Let's actually put this on. 1 9/16. You know what? We'll go 1 5/8 from the intake, 3/4 inch from the side. Is that right? Yeah, 3/4. Then from this front line, I'm going 1 5/8. So now that we got the mark on the floor, what we can do is take the gasket, the rubber gasket that it comes with, and get a good point for a good template to draw some holes so that we can get a pilot bit down. So there it is. I say we throw a pilot through it and see what happens. Yikes. All right, here we go. This is the first hole through the floor. Hopefully we don't blow up. Woo!
A little scary.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous right now, but we're through. Now I can go underneath and find out where that thing came through. Okay, so I went underneath the van. I took the heat shield off from around the muffler and I checked the pilot hole and we are good to go. So
I'm gonna start cutting the floor mat to install the heater. Cut a square of the mat away so it will sit flush with the floor.
Danny, don't make plans. They may not work out.
So if you want to take a peek, I'm just going to cut this square out where we're drilling the holes.
And while that cutting is in progress, let's get it on. Yeah, let's get it on. All right, so we're going to start making some holes in the floor. Let's see where we go. Oh, this drill is ridiculous. All right, there one. It's definitely time for an update on this thing. All right, so I'm gonna try to shoot for dead center on this one, and then bore it out with the paddle bit. Okay, hopefully we can get these paddle bits in there and take care of the rest of those holes. Oh, yeah, through. All right, now it's time to see if this thing lines up.
Cross our fingers.
All right, so we finished up drilling all of our holes and we're getting ready to install the Webasto. So we used a 3/8 drill bit for the fuel line, the bolts, and a 1-inch paddle bit for the intake and the exhaust holes. So now we're just gonna put on the gasket and get this thing ready to go on the ground. Get knuckled up, bolted in. Okay, so here we go, right? All right, so we're just gonna drop it in. I put a little extra caulking in there just for a little extra seal. And I also sprayed down the bare metal with some Rust-Oleum, just because I like that extra protection from weathering and water. But we're in. We're ready to bolt this thing in from underneath. All it is 4 bolts, and then the rest of it is It's time to move on to the fuel line. We bolted in the heater, everything is in place, everything is nice and tight, and this is the space that we have to work with, which is great. All right, I think we're ready to start connecting hoses. Let's get to it. It's all gonna be underneath the van, show you what you need, and we'll make it work. What you're gonna need to start putting the hoses together. So we got our exhaust pipe, we have our intake tube, we have our intake filter, we have our exhaust clamp, we have a 1/4-inch drill bit for the clamp to hold on the filter. We got our hose clamps for the intake. We have that whole bag of fuel line and fuel tubing and clamps all right here. You're gonna need a Phillips head screwdriver and a flathead screwdriver too. And I think it's a 11mm crescent wrench too. So let's get under there and get this thing going. This right here is your fuel line nipple. So we'll be hooking that up first. To start off with, what I did was I took a piece of that rubber hose that they provide with the kit and connected the plastic fuel line above ground, and then plug it up onto the fuel nipple on the heater. Alright, just gotta make sure that crank it on there because you don't want any gas leaks. This right here is your intake, and the wires that come out of the intake are the connection for the fuel pump. So once we get this in place and we find a good place to mount the fuel pump, we'll make our connection and run it over. Okay, that ain't going anywhere. This right here is your exhaust. The metal one is the exhaust. Now that the hoses are hooked up, let's find some placement for these things. I just mounted the intake filter right onto the frame. I drilled a hole into the frame to slide that little piece in that clips it in, so you can still remove it, and then it slides right back in. So that should keep it into place. And I got the exhaust just kind of hanging out right now just to see where I'm gonna want it to live. That's loose. Found great placement for the fuel pump. It's right on the strap that holds the fuel tank up. It's on the back passenger side bolt. The bolt was long enough and it fits that clamp that they gave with the kit perfectly. Now we just got to take the electrical wire that the kit came with that plugs into your fuel pump and measure the distance that it's going to take to splice in the new connectors to the outlet that comes out of the intake. One step closer. Woo-hoo-hoo! The wires and the fuel line runs down to the fuel pump, and this line here is ready for the fuel intake from the gas tank. The access to the fuel pump is right in here. So all you need is a flathead screwdriver. So you just unscrew these two little guys, and then kind of pry it up right under here. And then you have this little cover down here. Just got these Phillips head screws. There's 3 of them. You just unscrew these. And there's access to your fuel pump. So this is the port on the Promaster fuel pump that we're going to use to suck gas out of to fuel our Webasto heater. It's pretty easy to take off. All you do is you just pinch those green clamps down the bottom, and it pushes out, and it's ready to pop off. So you just take that off. And there's the fuel line that we're gonna suck gas out of. No drilling, no adding holes in the gas tank. It is a beautiful thing. Love the Promaster. So next we're gonna use a 3/16 to 1/4-inch reducer 90. I actually had to make this one because Home Depot was sold out of them, so I just put one together. It's basically 1/4-inch pipe 90 with reducers on the ends. Here's the final contraption. Everything seems to be hooked up. I already ran the fuel line down underneath so I can hook it up into the Webasto fuel pump. And we're almost ready to fire this thing up, or at least prime the motor. And I know it looks a little bit long and a little bit overkill, but what I want to do is I want to bring it down so that I can zip tie it to a couple of the existing fuel lines, just so that it's not rattling around or anything like that. Yeah. Gonna get to it and fire this thing up. The final connection. And I think we're gonna have gas and heat tonight if we can get the electrical hooked up. Oh, shit.
Fresh bread.
Fresh bread. Gotta fire that up. So, I think what I'm gonna try to do is, like, suck some gas through this line before I actually hook it up. I don't know how good of an idea that is, but... Let's see if I can fill it up with gas anyway, a little bit. I can definitely taste it in the gas. Ooh. Yep, that was gas. Didn't taste so great. It wouldn't be good on Cheerios.
Maybe on ice cream.
Oh yeah, you know what? I bet it would be good on ice cream. Gasoline sundaes from Friendly's. Yeah.
Now that should be a thing.
It is. It's on the secret menu. Like animal fries. Now that the gas lines are in and there's gas in the line, next we're going to plug in the wire harness. So what you want to do is you want to take off the top of the Webasto cover, and when you put this in, this is the end that you're going to plug in, and you want this going away from the outside because it locks into place right here. So we're going to slide this down. We found it. Just push it in, and it should lock there, locked into place right here. We're going to be doing a dry run on this thing. What I did was I put the fuses in. There's your positive and negative terminals, your positive and negative wires. The brown is the negative, and of course the red goes to the battery. But what I did was I hooked it up to an Anderson plug for our Goal Zero, so we can just plug it right up into the front and see if we can get power, because I'm not sure yet how and where to wire it just yet, how I want to power it, but I definitely wanted to get a good test run in. So here it is, and if the thing blows up, we'll be sure to still upload the video because it'll go viral. All right, so we plugged in. That should be powered up. Connect our controller. So just to clarify that with this kind of a controller, it has to go into the one that says Telestart right here. If this thing starts smoking, I'm gonna be really pissed off. But here we go. We have juice. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. We are almost ready for takeoff. All right, here we go. This is the, hopefully the main voyage. I'm going to be hooked up and I can find 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. Oh, kicked into overdrive. We have heat. So last night was the first night with our Webasto heater, and it was awesome. It was the perfect test run. Like, it came on, went off perfect, heated the place up really nice. So now it's just a matter of finishing up the job. So we're gonna get to the wiring and finish this thing up. As you can see, we have all of these wires hanging out. We don't have the back of our seat up yet. We do have the vent for the Webasto coming out, and it was blowing some massive heat. It was awesome. This thing is gonna be a total game changer. Right in here, we have the power outlets in this van, so we can hook directly up to battery right behind this little square piece right here, this little black area. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, right up here is 5. So once you get all those screws out, you can take everything and run wires nice and easy. And this is what it's going to look like after you take out all the panels. You have your whole electrical system right in here. Okay, so this is your auxiliary 1 outlet right here that powers on even when the van isn't running. So I'm going to hook right up into that for our positive, and then ground it out right into this one here, because that's a negative terminal to the battery. All the fuses and the power wires and the ground wires are all hooked up in this column here. These are our fuses for the Webasto. These are our ground wires. and the power wire is hooked up into the battery line. The controller is installed. The wire runs all the way on the inside of these cabinets. Through here, ran it down and over to the Webasto, and it's working. Everything is nice and clean, and it's good to go. Okay, so I have everything back together. This column is back together, and the final step is to put our back piece in, mark where the vent is gonna go. This is our mark. It isn't much of one, but it's about as good as I got. And then drill a hole in it with a 2.5 inch hole saw bit. Now that we got our hole, it's off to finish it up. I can't wait. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of gassed at this point. So, yeah, this is the final step. I hope. We have our hose clamp. This is the heater hose. This is the piece we're gonna button up on that hose. Let's get that hose clamp on first. Let's cram it on there. I'm gonna need a flathead screwdriver to put that on. Tighten that baby up in there. All right, that thing is locked into place. Now let's get this seat up. Here we go. Line up the holes. Slide this piece right in there. There we go. There's our heater duct. Looks like it was made for this thing. There we go. Happy Webasto. There it is. There's the vent. Now it's dark. You can't see it, but you can see me. But there's the vent right there. See it? Right there. There's your vent. Happy Webasto. You can only see half my face. I'm like half mask, half eyeball. And this is what it all looks like from the inside underneath the seat. It's all nice and clean, really good looking. We got a Webasto! Oh! Boom! Jesse, what do you think?
Boom!
So the first addition that we put into the electrical system since installing this is a 12-volt regulated cable by Goal Zero. And this is an essential part that you're going to need if you intend to run the Webasto off your Goal Zero. Because right around 90 to 93%, those 12-volt outlets that come directly from the Goal Zero won't push out enough electricity into the Webasto to get it through its first firing up phase. So what this does is it opens up that channel and allows enough electricity to go through to power that thing on every time. And the second addition to the electrical system that we hooked up is a double pole, double throw switch. Now, what I wanted to do and why I installed this was because if we had to conserve battery power to the house, I wanted to be able to switch it over to the car battery if we needed to use it. So what this does is it cuts full circuit and switches it to house, cuts circuit, switches it to car battery. And basically what this is you have 6 poles in the back of the switch. And what you want to do using spade terminals is you want to hook up to the center 2 poles, the wires going to the Webasto. It doesn't matter which side is negative or which side is positive, as long as you keep all of the positives on one side and all of the negatives on the other side. So you start off with the Webasto in the center. So this one is our negative. That means all of these have to be negative. And this is the positive, which means all of these have to be positive. So now I want the car battery to be in the number 1 spot. So I would hook up the negative and the positive on the bottom 2 terminals for the car battery. So now when I switch it to the first position, that'll be running car battery to power the Webasto. This is the house battery. So we got our negative going to the negative side, positive going to the positive side, and that will power on the house battery on number 2. This cuts all power, and that's it. Good to go. You push it right in, and it's nice and clean. We also installed a voltage indicator here. so that we know how much battery life is left in the vehicle. So you just push that, and it tells you how much percentage is in your car battery so that we don't run it down below 50% if we're using the car battery to power our heater. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and safe travels. Stay warm.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and come join us on our journey as we travel in our tiny home on wheels.